Sabrina 70s comic, issue 65. Sabrina doesn't want her family to just sit around on Christmas Eve. Hilda asks what more she wants them to do, as she already let Sabrina put up the tree the mortal way for the sake of tradition. Sabrina wants them to make eggnog and play Christmas music. Relatably, Hilda says she's too sentimental and it's only another silly mortal holiday. Sabrina is offended and wants to get some popcorn. Ambrose agrees with Sabrina, I guess because he spent too much time with her, and he decides to play Santa Claus for them so they won't forget this Christmas. Realistically, Hilda's just scared of a home invader. Maybe his voice sounds different in this form. So she closes the door and tells Zelda he's just a weirdo playing jokes, and Ambrose realizes that he should have just gone down the chimney. Hilda's met Santa before, so of course she wouldn't think he was Santa. Realistically, the ants react to the fact that there's something on the roof. Zelda hopes it's Santa, and Hilda's annoyed with her. Again, Santa's real in this comic. Realistically, because the fireplace has a fire in it, he falls into the fire. But unrealistically, he doesn't completely catch on fire, because he had the time to use magic to hover out of the chimney barely burned at all. It has to be magic, because fire's not a trampoline. This isn't Mario 64's lava. Then Ambrose slides off the roof and falls into the snow and realistically just wants to stand instead of sit down after he got burned there. He gives gifts to the family because Hilda's just now not messing with him anymore. I guess just to humor Sabrina. He could have zapped up a Santa of his own. They can create humans whenever they want. In the next story, Harvey doesn't want Sabrina to walk into tough turf and wants her to wait until he can go with her. I guess just because he's a guy, because he's always scared of rough neighborhoods. Sabrina's confident because she's survived them before. She wants to go because it's the most direct route for her to run an errand for Ambrose. At least Harvey explains that he's got a dental appointment. Then some guys talk to Sabrina, with one of them calling himself Mr. Excitement. One of them says it's party time and calls her a babe and says that they'll provide the company if she provides the money. So, are they soliciting her? That doesn't make much sense because she clearly doesn't look like a prostitute. This is too dark. She says that they'd better leave her alone because her escort is getting angry. Sabrina's a teenager, so she looks like an adult to them. Sabrina magically zaps up a tough guy which scares them away, and then she recklessly makes him disappear after dealing with just two tough guys. Then some guy says that she should have some protection in this place. This all feels stilted. Maybe one person going after her makes sense. But so many of them at once? Why does he have to be drawn with a smirk? What if he just wants to protect her, and just thinks his jacket looks cool? It makes Sabrina look too paranoid that she summons angry dogs to scare him away. She says that looking tough isn't the same as being tough. As I wish he was just a mugger like would make sense, and keep things simple. Harvey runs up to Sabrina saying that his dentist was sick, and he got here as fast as he could to protect her. Despite normally being a coward, he uncharacteristically threatens the tough guy that shows up. He's trying to make up for being afraid of being attacked by tough guys earlier in the comic. And Sabrina protects Harvey by casting a spell to give Harvey a granite jaw. So his punch breaks every bone in his fist. And I can't help but smile. Logically, why would this tough guy not have a gun? Is he not a mugger after all? Is he something worse? Or maybe he was just an innocent person and got offended when Harvey assumed he was someone he had to protect Sabrina from. We'll never know now. The story ends with Harvey making Sabrina giggle as he tells Ambrose that he fought off the tough guy by hitting him in the fist with his head. He wouldn't really phrase it like that. He'd just say what happened. Not to mention be really confused about it. Sabrina would have erased his memory of that by now. In the comedy page, Harvey walks through some deep snow looking forward to a present Hilda had for him. He says that he didn't know she cared and it was something he could use at her house. He's just desperate to believe the gift is good. It turns out her gift is a shovel for him to shovel the laneway with. Did her old shovel break, or is this actually the old shovel? Hopefully she doesn't hit him with a shovel. In the next story, Salem's bored and says he's really lucky he found a bird in the winter. I don't like the Salem stories because they're usually about Salem abusing his magic. Somehow, he figures out it was too old to fly south with the others and lets it fly away. And when it's lampshaded, it's at least explained that he let his family's Christmas cheer rub off on him. He doesn't want people to throw away some fish parts in the trash, so he uses magic to make them come to him to eat. He makes sure that the dozen stray cats eat them instead. He once again has a hallucination of the metaphorical devil on his shoulder complaining at him for doing this, without even saying that he should have eaten some of it himself first. He could have eaten his fill of it first and then alerted the cats to it when it was full, like I thought. Then when his old enemy, the dog, gets chased by an animal control guy with a net, Salem gets rid of the net for no reason whatsoever. It turns out the dog is cold in the doghouse and his abusive owners abandoned him there for the holidays without just giving him to someone who would like him. After the dog magically doesn't hate him and try to kill him on sight when he asks him to follow him, probably because he brainwashed him, Salem gives him a drumstick he stole from Sabrina's house. He tells the dog he can sleep in his warm tool shed when he's through. His translated dialogue being on the bottom of the panels in a separate text box means that I'm not encouraged to look at it and read it right away because it looks like an editor's note referring to a previous issue. At least he explains that this is all because Christmas is making him go soft. This was nice, but too confusing because it was Salem. So it's sappy. It's better than it could have been. Then there's two comedy half pages. After Hilda places a star on top of a Christmas tree by flying there with her broom, Hilda shows Sabrina a photo of the first time Sabrina put up a snow witch. In the next story, Sabrina gets off the train in Transylvania, thinking that Hilda said she should visit Ambrose's friend there while arbitrarily vacationing there, alone despite being a teenager. Okay, Sabrina's version of Earth sure is different from ours if this guy scared of Count Victor's castle rides on a horse and buggy. Just because it's Transylvania. Also, he speaks English. That's another unique thing about her planet. Sabrina's exhausted by the long walk to the castle from the train station. Why didn't she use magic to get here a lot faster? A witch would have flown here. Victor startles her by warping in front of the gate, saying that he was expecting her. I guess because Ambrose contacted him telepathically with the crystal ball he stared into. That'd be good writing. And she says his teeth are creepy looking and immediately gets rid of his fangs without his permission. Without even explaining first that he'd be treated a bit better by people if he didn't have fangs anymore. Not to mention he wouldn't do as much damage to his mouth when he bites the inside of it by accident, like by eating an apple or spinach. She should have explained this to him. She wouldn't be this stupid as to make herself look bad. She shows his reflection with the special enchanted mirror, while revealing the unique lore that even leprechauns and gremlins lack reflection. Lacking a reflection would only make sense if it was a broad curse cast on them by a council of spiteful witches. Even then, that's such a specific and petty curse. He tells her that without fangs, he can't stay alive because he can only drink blood. She says that's nonsense and hands him some chicken soup from Hilda, rather than some magicked up blood bags. Wouldn't she know that vampires can only subsist on blood? Logically, that makes no sense whatsoever though. They need nutrients from more than just that. He says the soup is good. Well, that's sweet. Why don't all the vampires drink soup instead then? How paranoid is he that he has the words "no admittance to the Count's bedroom" on his door when, according to the reaction of that guy from earlier, no one's brave enough to visit him anyways? Then Sabrina, being a witch, is once again brave and confident enough to get rid of his coffin. Actually, she puts a waterbed in his coffin, so it still respects his identity, and he thinks it's relaxing and comfortable. She didn't treat Hilda's vampire cousins like this. I guess because she didn't want to bother Hilda. She should have handed him Hilda's special tanning potion before letting in the sunlight. She saw how a vampire hated the daylight in an earlier story. He says the sun is beautiful, as I wonder why every vampire doesn't use his potion. Doesn't get sent the potion, or find out about it. Why does Ambrose freak out about Hilda sending Sabrina to visit Victor because he's a vampire? How is Victor his friend if he doesn't trust him? Why would Victor have not been him by now, based on his reaction? He and Hilda fly on brooms to Victor's castle hoping that they aren't too late. They would be too late based on them stupidly taking the slow way instead of just warping there. The story ends with a heartwarming ending, as the Count's made a wonderful transformation because of Sabrina. Now he's turned his castle into a tourist attraction, letting people go into it for free. It should at least cost $1, come on, it's still his home. He's also wearing a patriotic t-shirt. At least that means he won't be feared as much or made fun of, but it's not really suited to him. Still, this was a brilliant story. Witches have the potential for good too, especially Sabrina, so realistically they'd be just as capable of helping a vampire. It makes sense. I like that the vampire was intelligent enough to change. He just got bored of the traditions after centuries. The whole time the story had me dreading the visit backfiring on Sabrina. I thought he'd yell at her and kick her out and argue with her because of all her meddling. I didn't think they'd take to each other so well, but thankfully he was willing to listen to her logic. I guess he's a really sheltered vampire, if he thought he could only drink blood and there was no cure for sunlight allergies in all this time. And I guess Ambrose didn't think it was possible to convince him to eat soup and stuff in all his time being friends with him, because he's used to Hilda being stubbornly old-fashioned. The first story is by Dick Malmgren. The second story is also by him, and the final story is by George Glatter.